Keshavasya Namo Namaha.
Priyandaya Tulsidevaya Priyaya Kesavasucha
Vishnu Bhakti Devi Sarvajaya Vrinaya Tulsidevaya Priyaya Keshavasya Cha Vishnu Bhakti Devi Sarvajaya Namo Namaha. Vrinaya Tulsidevaya Priyaya Keshavasya Cha Vishnu Bhakti Devi Sajavachaya Namo Namaha. Jai Tulsi Maharani, Tulsi Maharani. Jai. We offer our most respectful obeisances to all the Lord. We're just like desire trees who can fulfill the desires of everyone, and they are full of compassion for the fallen, conditioned souls. Jai. Panchakalpa Durubhisya Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo. All right. Two garlands. Jaya Radha Madhova Kunda Bihari Jaya Radha Madhova Kunda Bihari Gopi Janabalaba Idavadanavi Balaba Ide Badadhari Gopi Jana Malaba Ide Badadhari Yasodanandana Prajajanuranjana Yasodanandana Prajajanuranjana Yamunatira Panachare Yamunatira Manachare Jaya Radhu Madhova Kunda Bihari Jaya Radhu Madhuva Kunda Bihati Gopi Janamalaba Irivarudhati Gopi Janamalaba Irivarudhati Irivarudhane Asuranandana Rajajanu Ranjana Asuranandana Rajajanu Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radhu Madhuva Kunda Bihati Jaya Radhu Madhuva Kunda Bihati Madhuva Kunda Bihati Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Paravatakacharya also Tada Satashi Shimad, His Divine Grace Abhaya Charananda Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Huilas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shidwaita Gadadha Sri Vasili Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Shaima Kunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavanam Ki Jai Mathuram Ki Jai Jagadasami Ki Jai Manavai Ki Jai Shrimati Lasi Devi Ki Jai Samavita Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bol. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Namah Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharni Nivishesha Shunyavadi Paschachate Shatarni. So today, I guess we are reading from the 10th canto, Srimad Bhagavatam, 73rd chapter, text 24. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shri Shugo Vacha Iti Adisha Ripan Krishno Bhagavan Bhuvaneshvara Tesham Nyayukta Purushan Striyo Majjana Karmane Shishugu Vacha Ichanishan Ripan Krishno Bhagavan Bhuvaneshvara Tesham Yukta Purushan Striyo Majjana Karmate Shishugu Vacha Ichanishan Ripan Krishno Bhagavan Bhuvaneshvara Tesham Niyungta Purushan Striyoma Jana Karmade Shishugu Vacha Ichadishan Ripan Krishno Bhagavan Bhuvaneshvara Tesham Nyayungta Purushan Sriyoma Jana Karmade. Okay. Ladies. All right. Shri Shukuru Vacha. Shukadev Goswami said, Iti thus, Adisha ordering, Nripan the kings, Krishna, Bhagavan the Supreme Lord, Bhuvana of all the worlds, Ishvara the Master, Tesham of them, Nyayungta engaged, Purushan men servants, Striha and women, Majana of cleansing, Karmani in the work. So translation. Shukadeva Goswami said, having thus instructed the kings, Lord Krishna, the Supreme Master of all the worlds, engaged male and female servants in bathing and grooming them. So you can repeat. Shukadeva Goswami said, having thus instructed the kings, Lord Krishna, the Supreme Master of all the worlds, engaged male and female servants in bathing and grooming them. So there's no purport by the followers of His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, and there are short purports by two acharyas. So Jiva Goswami states, though he was condensed bliss, Krishna, and endowed with supreme powers, rarely understood by Brahma and others, and was revealing pastimes of power in the world, after instructing the kings, he directly engaged men in cleaning them, with women helping to complete the task. And Sanatana Goswami, Krishna gives all bliss, and his most merciful Bhagavan engaged male and female servants in bathing the kings. How did it should be so many. Actually, here it says some many. Where's the say over there? It says the same thing?
No, it's not on the board.
It says it's a mistake here. Yeah, it says, how did so many men and women suddenly manifest Krishna as the Lord of the 14 worlds? By his desire, everything happens. So again, Sri Shukravaccha Ityadesha Nrupan Krishno Bhagavan Bhuvaneshvara Tesham Yayumta Purushan Striyo Mojana Karmani Somagana Chimirandasha Gananjana Shlakaya Chakshur Unmeditam Yena Tosmai Shikaravemaha. So this is after Krishna has rescued all these kings from the hands of Jarasandha, who was going to kill them all and offer them all to Bhairava as a sacrifice to become more powerful himself. So one has to ask, or don't have to ask, you should ask, why would Krishna do this to these kings who were obviously devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? And we find the answer in the Bhagavatam, Yashaham Anugrinami, Huri She Dad Danam Shaddai. For those who I especially favor, and sometimes I pray that I won't be especially favored, then I take away everything. So their friends and relatives reject them, and all they're left with is just the chanting of Hare Krishna. So it's interesting that what happened with these kings, because let's talk about kings, for example. Kings are, anyway, Kshatriya is supposed to be Kshatriyas, and the kings protect the citizens, but one aspect of being a Kshatriya, because they're actually in the mode of passion. Kshatriyas in the mode of passion, Brahmanas are in the mode of goodness, Vaishyas, mixed modes, passion and ignorance, and Shudras in the mode of ignorance. So one interesting thing about being a Kshatriya, because if you're in passion, you really are interested in what? Reputation. Reputation is like number one for Kshatriya. That's why Krishna says to Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita to try to convince him to fight. He says, for one who has been honored, dishonor is worse than death. Now for a Brahmin, he couldn't care. And so, but for a Kshatriya, those in the mode of passion, they really care. Just like recently I've been speaking to people, and especially in Indian culture, they were talking about reputation. I speak to the youth. You know, they're so concerned with reputation, how others look at them. And I explained to them that basically you shouldn't really care. And they said, but we do care. So I was thinking, you know, this is like a Kshatriya. They're not exactly the youth were Kshatriyas, but I was explaining that one has to develop enough sense of self-esteem. You know what self-esteem means? Not pride, but just like conviction that I am a servant of Krishna. I'm trying my best to serve Krishna. And, you know, I'm going to make mistakes, and who cares what other people say, you know, sticks and stones will break my bones. But names will never hurt me. But a Kshatriya is not like that. Kshatriyas, the sticks and stones can break my bones, but that's okay. Like you see Grandfather Bhishma, he's rushing at Arjuna and Krishna, and he's filled not just with sticks and stones and broken bones, but he's filled with arrows, and he keeps rushing. So it didn't really disturb him at all. I mean, maybe a little bit. So, but for a Kshatriya, names are really important, reputation. It's worse than death to lose one's reputation. So, therefore, what Krishna did, he arranged that these kings would lose their reputation. Why? Because they lost the fight. If you lose a fight as a Kshatriya, that's it, you're finished, you're just like useless. Just like that story the Prabhupada often tells about the Kshatriya who went out to fight, and he didn't win the fight, and he didn't lose the fight, but he left the fight. And he came back home, and his wife wouldn't even let him back in the palace. She said, "You could not be my husband. Get out of here, imposter." Because my husband would either win or die in the fight. So hearing his wives, because wives of Kshatriyas, sometimes they're Kshatriyas too, not always. Sometimes you get Brahmin wives, sometimes you get Vaishya's wives, sometimes you get Shudra wives, but anyway. So he got enthusiastic and went out to fight again. Hearing his wife's, because he didn't want to be embarrassed in front of his wife. That's the worst possible thing. So Krishna took away these kings' false ego. That I'm a Kshatriya. And so they had to go back to their kingdom, sort of like with a tail between the legs. And it's interesting, it's also mentioned that previously they were not treating their citizens so nicely because of their false pride. Now a Kshatriya is supposed to see all of his citizens equally, not only equally, but he should consider his citizens to be like his children. That's mentioned, praja means children. And actually as important, or sometimes even more important, than one's own wife and children, like we see in the case of Lord Ramchandra. So Kshatriya has that detachment that his Kshatriya duties are so important that all of his personal interests are actually secondary, subsidiary to his duties as being a king. Very, very interesting. So nowadays, of course, the present leaders is one of my favorite topics. There is so much nepotism. Some of you may have heard about the word nepotism before. Nepotism means you favor your friends and especially your relatives. Just like oh my God, I'm not going to comment about the present situation in America because the whole world is watching, anyway. AI is watching and will report me to certain people, which I don't want to do right now. So anyway, I want to keep myself in good graces with the government. So generally, yes, there was so much nepotism, so much, just like it was discovered. All right, let's talk about India. I won't get in trouble for India. Just like the previous government in India, not mention their name, Congress Party. So it's known that they put so much money into Swiss bank accounts. And so, because they had so many other interests, other than the interests of the people. And the present government, because I'm becoming Indian as I talk, so the present government is headed by someone who has no separate interests other than spreading, what he calls Sanatana Dharma and working for the country. He's actually become a Deshbhakta, isn't it? Anyway, because you can see he's a very interesting personality, Modi, because he has no family, no money, no possessions. It's almost like a sannyasi taking over the kingdom. So this is like in one sense, it's like an ideal leader. Someone has no personal interests. So these Kshatriyas here had personal interests before, were very attached in many different ways, but they were also devotees. Right. So Krishna was thinking, in addition to killing Jarasandha, rescuing the kings, Krishna arranged this whole scenario, being an expert playwright, not only playwright, but also director, producer, behind the scenes, scene maker and everything like that. Krishna arranged that these particular attached kings would be put into such a situation that they would become purified. And then they would cry out to him in distress. And crying out to him in distress, therefore he came to rescue them, but that's not the point. They became purified by crying out to him in distress. Like, I Nanda Tanuja Kinkuram, Patitam Mam Vishame Bhavam Buddho, Kripaya Tava Padapanka, Asita Duli Sadrasam, Vijintya. And because of crying out to him in distress, they became so purified, they became qualified to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face. And not only that, I was thinking about this in some of the previous verses it mentions, they did not blame Jarasandha anymore. I mean, this is really a quality of someone who's a great devotee. As we often quote from Lord Kapila-dev, Dadikshiva Kurunika Surada Sarvadayam Agyata Shatrava Shanta Sadava Sada Bhushana. That a devotee is Agyata Shatrava Shanta, a devotee has no enemies, or the devotee's enemies are never born. So they're showing the quality. It's really interesting. They're Kshatriyas who generally think in terms of what? Friends and enemies, conquering your enemies. But they're actually come to the quality, the same quality that Maharaj Yudhisthira is at, which is Agyata Shatrava, not considering anyone to be their enemies. They're thinking that even Jarasandha was just like a victim of the circumstances. Just like they were victims. They were equating themselves with Jarasandha. They're thinking just like Jarasandha fell victim to what? Janmaishvarya Shrudasra Shibir, especially wealth, prestige. We also fell victim. So this is really compassion. Putting yourself, compassion actually is, or empathy is, putting yourself in someone else's shoes, called role-playing or perspective, changing your perspective taking. So they actually were compassionate towards Jarasandha. And of course, they didn't need to be compassionate towards Jarasandha because Jarasandha was through and through a demon. In his previous life, he was, according to the 8th canto, he was Viprachiti, demon. Complete, absolute demon, like Kalanemi became Kamsa, and Viprachiti became Jarasandha. So, but really they were feeling compassion. This is really interesting insofar as how we approach people. Generally, we want to think of terms of friends and enemies. We do that, unfortunately, as aspiring spiritualists. We look at people who are not in the Krishna consciousness movement and we consider them to be, what? Demons, rakshasas, there's a whole sense of other nice words we have for them. Meat eaters, karmis, all these pejorative words that we have in relationship with those who are not Krishna conscious. But, I like this statement that the Christians use, but for the grace of God, there go I. It's a very wonderful statement. I could definitely be in that situation if it wasn't for the grace of God, wasn't for the grace of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Sitting here, so we look at people who are not members of the movement and we think, oh, demons. They're not one of us, not one of our group or cult. Generally we like to have like our groups or cults. Actually, I was talking to yesterday to some people about this. Now, especially young people, they like to feel like there's their group, belonging to a group. So we have to be careful not to succumb to that particular illusion that here we are belonging to our little ISKCON group. And it's actually a very tiny, insignificant group. Even though we feel it's like the whole world, but it's insignificant. Insignificant as far as numbers. Significant because it's Prabhupada's group. But we should identify ourselves, yastu sarvani bhutani atma nayavana pashati, what is it, sarva bhuteshu chatmanam tatogna vigigupshate. We should identify ourselves with all living entities. I mean, so many statements in Gita, Vidya Vinaya Sampane Brahmani Gavihastani, Shunichai Vespapaki Cha, Pandita Samadarshana. And we should have some humility like the kings have here, not thinking that we're better than anyone else. So anyway, so getting back to the point, the kings actually had that humility. Previously, they were proud as anything, and now they've been brought to that dainu, humility, which is actually the price of pure devotional service, or is actually not different from prema, according to Sanatana Goswami in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita. So, very, very interesting. So Krishna has these various ways of bringing his devotees to this particular point. Sometimes people come, chatur vidha bhajantibam, people come because they're in distress, sometimes people come because they're looking for wealth, sometimes people come because they're inquisitive or they want knowledge according to Krishna and Bhagavad Gita. But Krishna makes the arrangement. He's behind the scenes. Just like in Australia, we're reading this one verse from the Bhagavatam in class where Grandfather Bhishma, he states, no one knows the plan of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's really interesting. No one knows. And I was thinking like about the Pandavas. They had no idea what Krishna was going to do to them. Isn't it? No idea what Krishna was going to do with them, or to them. Not with them, but with them and to them. So we also have no idea what Krishna is going to do to us, or with us, or whatever. But we do know that whatever it is, it's for our own good. I was thinking also comparing it to going into the operating room. Let's say you have a heart surgery or something like that. You probably, vaguely the heart surgeon is going to like clean out your arteries or whatever he's going to do. But you don't really know the details, how he's going to do it, because you're not a surgeon, you're not a doctor. So Krishna's like the ideal heart surgeon who just makes all these plans. And we just have to go along with his plans because Krishna is ultimately trying to bring you to the point, like he brought the kings to the point of the first verse in the 7th chapter of the Gita, Maya Shakta Manoparta, Yogam Yunjum Madashraya, Samsayam, Samagramam, Yatagya Sasi, Tatshanu. It's a very interesting verse. I heard Prabhupada talk about that verse this morning. While I was doing my deities, Maya Shakti Manoparta, that after he goes through chapter 6, which chapter 6, of course, is the yoga chapter, and he says, of all yogis, the one who was actually absorbed in me, then you get to the middle 6 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita, which the Acharyas say are the nectar part of the Bhagavad Gita. Then he says, I'm going to tell you how to become absorbed in me. Ashakti, Maya Ashakti, Manoparta. Ashakti is a very interesting word. It means completely attached. Completely attached. And there, in this particular class that I was listening to, Prabhupada was saying that basically by becoming completely attached to Krishna, automatically all these other attachments dissipate. So oftentimes people are very worried about their attachments. I'm attached to this, I'm attached to that, I'll never go back to Godhead. But the advice Prabhupada was giving in this particular class is one has to become completely attached to Krishna. Maya, Shakti, Manobharta, Yoga Yunjam, Madhashraya. And Prabhupada talked about, very interesting, he said, in order to become completely attached to Krishna, you have to engage in these surrendering principles. Maya, Manobharta, Yoga Yunjam, Madhashraya means taking shelter in Krishna. And taking shelter in Krishna means you have to give up all other shelters in this world, like these kings here. They've given up all other shelter. They were taking shelter of their arms before, being kings, their prestige, their position. And Krishna just ripped it out from under them. And so their only shelter now is Krishna. And so they're completely, utterly attached to Krishna. And we find in this particular verse, which is quite interesting, Krishna's arranging for them to be cleaned by male servants and female servants. Now, why is this mentioned? We understand, that's the proper thing. They're probably pretty dirty after all this time. Being in prison. I'm sure Jarasandha didn't give them adequate showers or baths or anything like that. Probably he would give them a good bath before he offered them. That's what you're supposed to do before you offer someone in sacrifice. You're supposed to bathe the sacrificial animal. So, in case you didn't know, and you feed them too. So, because this indicates, metaphorically, although it's not mentioned by the acharyas, it indicates the cleansing of the heart. Not just the external cleansing, just like when we do a fire sacrifice, there's what Oma Pavitra Pavitrava Sarvavashta Katopiva Yaksma Ret Pundarikaksham Savaya Avyantura Shuchi Sri Vishnu Sri Vishnu Sri Vishnu. That when one remembers the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Oma Pavitra, it doesn't matter, Pavitrava. And also Prabhupada quoted the verse from the Bhagavad Gita where Krishna says, if one approaches, be they at lower birth, anyway, if one approaches me, be they of lower birth, like Sri, Shuja, Dvijabandhu Nam, they can actually be Krishna conscious. So, anyway, so, getting to the point, is that when one Srinvata Swakata Krishna Punyashravana Kirtanat, so Oma Pavitra Pavitrova. So whether one is purified or impurified or contaminated, if one remembers the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one can actually come to the point of complete purification. So basically, Yaksmaret Pundarikaksham. What's that? Hare Krishna. They definitely didn't come at the right time. Yaksmaret Pundarikaksham. Savaya Avyantura Shuchi Shri Vishnu Shri Vishnu. So, thank you. So, anyway, so again the verse which I began to quote, Shrimvata Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Ridyantaksto Yavadrani Vidunoti Saritsatam. And the Bhagavatam states that if one hears and chants about Krishna, remembers Krishna, then Krishna in the heart arranges for the purification of the particular individual. So here's what's happening. Krishna is arranging for their purification because they're remembering Krishna, and they're remembering Krishna out of extreme anxiety and distress. So, and that's how they became pure devotees. So we should have faith that whatever Krishna does with us, to us, is for our benefit, although we don't know why he's doing what he's doing. So any questions or comments? Yes.
The first verse of the 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is that Prabhupada gave more classes on that verse than
Really?
It's a very important verse because it starts off telling Arjuna this is how you're going to become Krishna conscious.
Yeah. Yeah, it's such an important verse, and it's starts out with, actually, the first part is Sri Bhagavana Vacha. I didn't quote that first part of the verse, but yeah, and that's the middle section of the Bhagavad Gita, which is described as the nectar section. The Bhagavad Gita is divided into 3 parts: first 6 chapters, middle 6 chapters, and the last 6 chapters. And that it's described that the first 6 and the last 6 are like protecting the middle 6, which are actually the very essence of the Bhagavad Gita. Of course, you find pure devotional service everywhere. I mean, just like even in the 18th chapter, into the 18th chapter, and not only Sarvadharma Parityajya, we also find Manmana, Bhavamat Bhakto, etc. like that. But the middle 6, especially beginning with that verse, Maya Shakta Mana, Partha, you should become attached to me and fix your mind on me. Yogam Yunja Malashraya, and take shelter through this process of bhakti yoga. But Shamshayam, without any doubt, Samagram Mam, like this doubt, is actually keeping us from being Krishna conscious. Ashradana Purusha Dharma Shasha Parandapa Aprapyamam Nivartate Mritu Samsara Varmani. That's also a statement by Krishna in the 9th chapter. Those who don't have faith, those who have doubt, Shradana Purusha Dharma Shasha Parandapa, in the process of Krishna consciousness, Aprapyamam, they don't attain Krishna Nivartante, but they return to Mritu Samsara Vartmani, birth and death in the material world. Okay, so Purvaji, you had a question?
Yeah, you mentioned this mantra by the grace of God.
It's not exactly a mantra, but it's a saying that you usually hear about from Christians. But for the grace of God, there go I. Okay, let me go slowly. But, which means if it wasn't for the grace of God, there go I. It's not correct English, actually. But I would be in that situation if it wasn't for the grace of God. In other words, while we're looking at someone who is suffering or even doing something horrendous, even like there's political leaders in the world who are doing horrendous things, but we just think that if it wasn't for the grace of Srila Prabhupada, who is giving us the grace of God, not independent grace, then I could easily be in a situation or worse than those people. So therefore, that thinking like that can invoke in our hearts a mood of compassion towards others. If it wasn't for Prabhupada's grace, I could be in that situation. Therefore, I have no right to look down upon someone or think that I'm better than anyone else. You understand? It evokes compassion and also humility, which I mentioned the kings developed. The kings actually thought, we were in the same situation as Jarasandha. But Krishna saved us from that situation. But of course, Jarasandha couldn't be saved because he didn't. Krishna could do anything, but Krishna has allowed the living entities to have free will. So Jarasandha couldn't be saved because he is through and through demoniac. And hopefully, ultimately, he will be saved. But right now, in this particular context, he wasn't because of his dedication to demoniac principles. So, any other questions? Yeah, Gopi.
Well, you just made an interesting statement last night, which I think is relative good. It hit me anyway, it hit me, where you said that these, world leaders are actually exemplifying to the greatest degree what is really also in our hearts.
Yeah.
And so that's really a point of reflection of understanding the humility and compassion at the same time.
Yeah. So just like we have leaders of different countries, sort of made nameless, who are acting in such a way that is not really compassionate or not really productive maturely or spiritually. We should understand these leaders reflect their consciousness and their activities, reflect the consciousness and activities of the people who are supporting them. Yeah.
Vote for those who are bigger.
Yeah. I mean, the leaders didn't get to be leaders just because they decided to be leaders. They had to have some support. Even in a dictatorship, it's like that. They have to have some support. And so they don't stand alone. They stand with all their supporters, which is the majority of people, especially in a democratic country. Okay, all glories to His divine grace. Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Yeah.
Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Kanvandam Maravindanalayataptam Varhavatam Samasitam Buddhasundarangam Kandar Agom Vikamaniya Vishesha Shobham Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Yasa Sakalen Priti manti Vasyanti panti kayanti Chiram naganti Ananda chinmaya sadhu Jala vigrahasya Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Bhajami. Namaho Vishnu Jaya Krishna Pastaya Jaya Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Samaniji Namane Namaho Vishnu Jaya Krishna Pastaya Jaya Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Samaniji Namane Namaste Namaste Saraswati Jai Gurbani Pacha Nay Nirvisesha Sunyamati Rasacha Resat Nay Saraswati Jai Gurbani Pacha Nay Nirvisesha Sunyamati Vasyachare Saturday Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasati Gauranga Vrinda Chaitanya Nityananda Yadvaita Gadadhara Sivasati Gauranga Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasati Gauranga Vrinda Shri Krishna Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasati Gauranga Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasati Gauranga Vrinda Ati Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Krishna Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare Ram Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Ram Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Ram Hare Hare Goloka Rate Jai Om Vishnupada Tamam Sahar Jorya Sadashi Shiva Divine Grace Abhaya Jana Shana Kunda Rakunda Giri
All glories to somebody. All glories to she who Gauranga Shilavad.
Chaitodarpanam Marjanam Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapanam Shreya Kairavya Chandrika Vicharanam Vidyavadu Jivanam Anandam Buddhi Vardhanam Pratipanam Purnamrita Swadanam Sarvatma Snapanam Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Bahodanai Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatrapitani Amita Smarane Nakala Etadrishita Vakripa Bhagavan Mamapi Durdaiva Midrishami Hajjanina. Thank you. Trinada Pi Sunichena Tarora Pi Suhishuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari Nadanam Najanam Nasundarim Kavitam Vajrakadisha Kamaye Mama Janmani Janmani Ishvare Bhavatad Bhaktir Hoitaki Twai Ainanda Tanuja Kinkaram Patitam Mam Vishame Bhavam Buddha Kripayata Vabada Pankaja Stita Duli Sajachim Vachintaya Nayanam Gilashu Daraya Vadanam Gad Garudaya Gira Pulakarnishitam Bhutna Tavanama Grahane Bhavishyati Yugayatam Namishena Chakshusha Bhavashayatam Shunayatam Jagat Sarvam Govindam Virahename Ashlishava Padamritam Anastumam Adarshanam Marmahata Karotuva Yatatava Vidadatulam Pato Mat Prananatastusa Eva Napara. Victory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life, of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss, and it enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. O my Lord, congregational chanting of your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names you've invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names, but I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire